Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of TED Talks. My name is Robert Whittemore, and I will be presenting on critical thinking. To begin, if you could have more of something that would make your life easier, what would it be?
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Yes, Jerry, it's money. What if I told you that critical thinking could help make you some extra money? I'm sure by now, many of you have seen the daily fantasy site commercials such as DraftKings and FanDuel. Well, I'm here to show you how you can win some money on those sites with using nothing but critical thinking and plug-in numbers. Yes, you don't need to be a sports genius to win money on these sites. Why am I qualified? Well, let's just say I win money on these sites all the time. Sometimes I even hit for over $1,000.
So as you can see from the TV, I use a spreadsheet to help me pick my players. First category I have is the Vegas category right here, which has the points expected by Vegas for each team and the over-under. Next, I have quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs, wide receivers. Over here, I put the team's rushing yards per game for the season, passing yards games for the season, defensive rushing yards games per season, and defensive passing yards per game for the season. I also do the same thing for the past 3 weeks. So the Arizona Cardinals, for example, for the past 3 weeks have 118 rushing yards per game. Also, up here, I have the game matchups for the week. So I have the Bills versus Jaguars as the first game. Bills are ranked 25th against the quarterback. So Jaguars actually have a good quarterback matchup. So you might want to start Blake Bortles that week. I do the same thing for the whole season right here for each game. And then I do the last 3 weeks average as well. So right now, you're probably wondering, where do I get my stats? How do I fill in my spreadsheet? Well, I get all that from a website called rotogrinders.com. Here you can literally find anything. Player stats, depth charts and lineups for the week. Vegas odds, this is where I get the Vegas odds. Targets and touches, offense and defense. What I'm going to focus on is defense and show you is defense first position. So here, as you can see, the first category they show is the defensive rushing yards per game from last season. And once you press that button, it shows you who's the worst. So the Cleveland Browns are the worst rushing defense. So opposing teams ran for 141 yards a game. So literally, you can find anything you want on this website. And what I do is I just copy and paste everything and click it right into my spreadsheet. The quarterbacks first. So for quarterbacks, you can see you have the matchups right here. Matchup means 32. That means they have the best matchup of the week because it's 32 teams. 2 is the worst. What I do is I color coordinate everything. If there's a dark green, that means it's a good matchup. If it's like, lighter green, it's a pretty good matchup. If it's not color coordinated, that means it's an average matchup. Orange is below average, and red is a danger matchup. Now I do that for each category. So for this week, for matchups, the good matchups are, Carson Palmer has a good matchup, 32, Tannehill, 26, Foles, 22, etc. Now, I also do the same thing for the past 3 weeks. Then we have salary. For salary this is the salary that the website gives you. So obviously the better quarterbacks are going to cost more. So somebody like Tom Brady costs the most this week at $16,300. You're only allowed a certain amount of salary for your whole team. So that's why, picking players that are going to do good, that cost less, is key. You want to get value in your players. So where critical thinking comes in. So just looking at here, I got points per game. Wind's a factor for a quarterback. If it's too windy, he's not going to be able to throw it down the field. So if you take all of the good greens and you look at it, Carson Palmer, great play this week. All greens. The only thing that's not green is salary. Tannehill's not a bad play. He doesn't have anything orange or red. Manning, good play. Greens, the only orange is salary. So this is all you want. This is all you try to do. You just try to match up the greens for each position. So that's it for the quarterbacks. Next, we're going to go on to tight ends. So in tight ends, the way I put them in order is by how many targets they get per game. So as of right now, Antonio Gates gets the most targets per game, which is 13.5. Out of those targets, he gets 9 catches per game. So I do the same thing. We got yards. I break down the yards by color coordinated. He has, dark green's good, light green's good, and then I do the same thing with touchdowns, fantasy points per game. Now for tight ends, I don't color coordinate the salaries because usually tight ends are around the same salary anyway. There's not too many tight ends that you're going to really choose from. There's only going to be about 5 that you're really going to think about choosing. Now, if I was going to pick a tight end for this week, I would take Antonio Gates, Julius Thomas, Jason Witten maybe, and then Delaney Walker. You want to stay away from the guys in the red. Now, running backs, I break running backs down by rushing attempts. You got to run the ball in order to score points. So, rushing yards per game, I have Le'Veon Bell is looking pretty good. Chris Ivory, Peterson, they all have dark green, so you want to go for them. Touchdowns is huge. If you have a dark green touchdown, it's definitely big. What also helps running backs a lot is, especially in DraftKings, is receptions, because actually you get a half a point for a reception. So if you have a running back, you catch a ball. Le'Veon Bell, once again, 4.5 catches per game. It's something you want to look out for. So now, if you notice here, I have matchups right here. Now, if you're looking at all these green, everybody here is green. I would take Todd Gurley this week because his matchup's 26. So you're going to think he's going to have a huge number, big game. You might want to stay away from like Devontae Freeman. Yes, he's got great, stats for the week, for the year, but it's going up against the second hardest rush defense. So that's what you do. You want to try to play the matchups with guys who are in the green. This is also where the last 3 weeks come into play too, because if a guy's riding a hot streak and he has a good matchup, he might have a huge game. Like LaShawn McCoy, he might not be all green for the year over here, but over here, the last 3 weeks, he's been lighting it up. He's 17 rushes per game is not bad. He had 90 yards a game the last 3 weeks. That's awesome. Averaging 1 touchdown, and he's going against 28th for rush defense. So you can playing a rush defense is not that good. He should have a huge week. Todd Gurley should have a huge week. Those are the guys I would kind of look for. Now for receivers, I kind of did the same thing as far as touches. You have targets, so I rank them by targets, and then you have the same thing. You have the guys. Obviously, the top 8 here have basically all greens. I mean, this is where this works into. Like Jeremy Curley, if you know football, he's not a great receiver. The fact that he has that many targets per week, I'm actually surprised about. So that means he's either played 1 game, which he has, I noticed, because he only has 6, averages 6 catches, 33 yards. So I think he's only played 1 game in the year. So that's why you want to stay away from somebody like Jeremy Curley. But and you look at here, once again, big week. DeAndre Hopkins, great matchup, great all around the board, costs a lot. Now, for some of your lesser guys, like when I want to scroll down, show you the benefits of doing this. Stephon Diggs, not that great of normal receiver. He's a rookie receiver. He has a really good matchup this week. And if you actually look at his numbers, they're surprisingly good for a rookie. He's cheap, 8,900 compared. Now, if you just go up 2 spots to somebody who barely has, a few spots, barely has more catches than him, like, say, Michael Crabtree. They have similar points. Crabtree actually has less points per game at 13.56 than Diggs, yet he costs the same. You gotta look for the value guys. If you go up a little bit more, you'll see a guy like Calvin Johnson, who's big name, but he's only averaging 16.8 per game, but then you go back to Stephon Diggs, 18.8. He's actually averaging more, yet he's costing $5,000, $6,000 less. So somebody like Stephon Diggs this week would be a value play.
Yeah.
Basically, it pays off to use critical thinking. You hear about people who have won over $100,000 to $1 million a week on these sites. It's not because they know everything there is to know about football. It's because they use critical thinking and create their own systems. My system allows you to skip your biases and go with statistical facts. There was one week where I won $400, but would have won over $20,000 if I stuck with my research instead of going with my biases on the player that I hated. I refused to use Doug Martin, even though my spreadsheet showed I should put him in my lineup. He ended up scoring the most points that week, and if I kept him in, I would have had a lot more money from the site than I do now. Usually, I make 2 lineups per week. Most of the top people on this site will fill out 30 lineups a week using their own systems. If I had $3,000 to spend a week, maybe I would too. Obviously, some weeks, you're going to have a bad week and be in the negatives, but overall, my system has provided me a positive bank account for most weeks. Thank you for watching my presentation. I hope you have gained a better knowledge on how to win easy on these draft sites.